Well, good afternoon, viewers. Today we have a 2014 Chevy Silverado 4x4 crew cab. I believe it's a 1500. It was here a couple of months ago. We had a parasitic draw because of a relay being energized in the fuse panel, but now it's got a new problem, or another problem. Start it up and we'll see here. Service four-wheel drive, and the four-wheel drive does not work. When you select auto, nothing happens. It says add washer fluid. Service four-wheel drive message is up. So as always, we're going to start out with a network scan of all the controllers in it and see what it has to give us for codes and possible direction. So I've loaded the vehicle service record from history, and we're going to do a network scan of all the controllers. It should auto ID. I'm using my Veris Edge. Software needs to be updated. It's got 140,000 kilometers roughly. So let's do a code scan of all the controllers. I'm doing it with the engine running. That's usually not a problem. Incorrect immobilizer key. Never mentioned anything about a starting issue, but that could be because of an aftermarket car starter system in the vehicle. Although this thing should have built-in car starter. Anti-lock brakes, control module, power voltage low, brake booster vacuum circuit. Those are all history codes. Front video display, low voltage, or above voltage. Below and above. So I wonder if he's been having issues with the battery voltage, or maybe had a charger hooked up to it. Instrument panel cluster, radio module, power, voltage, transfer case. Okay, this is the code that's generating the fault. Range actuator control circuit short to battery, current. C0306. Range actuator control circuit short to battery. So I'm going to look up in the transfer case motor. Let's see, what has it got? ID. 1-speed has a 3-position rotary switch. 2-speed has a 5-position rotary switch located left of the steering column. I got to check to see what it has. So it has a 2-speed transfer case. Let's just read the codes one more time in here. C0306, and its current code. Let's see if there's any troubleshooter information in here. This is built into the snap-on scanner. Transfer case, code tips, C0306. Saves having to go online. A little bit of circuit description about it being a bidirectional permanent magnet DC motor. And conditions for running. Conditions for setting. The GCCM tests the motor circuits by checking for unexpected voltage. Supplies voltage on each of the motor circuits and reads the voltage back on the other circuit. Detects a low voltage return when a high voltage is expected, or a high voltage return when a low voltage is expected. The DTC is logged. It could be a wiring problem, could be the transfer case control motor problem. All shifting is disabled. The mode's lights shall flash upon a request. Service four-wheel drive indicator remains on for the remainder of the current ignition cycle. It's possible to have windings inside the motor shorted to the case, resulting in a short to ground, causing this DTC. So we'll have a look at some cases on Identifix and see what's involved in diagnosing this. So I loaded the vehicle in Identifix, and I typed in the keyword search for C0306, and I see there are several cases fixed by reprogramming the TCCM, transfer case control module. It says reprogram the TCCM. There's no bulletin supporting the reflash. However, there's an updated program to address C0387, 06, and a couple of U codes. Let's read that. Normally they have a bulletin. There is no bulletin to reflash. However, perform transfer case high-low clutch reset. Refer to document. Well, it could be the encoder motor. Let's look at the troubleshooting for the code. Normally reprogramming doesn't fix a hard error code, but anything's possible. I think I did one a few months ago that the customer had changed the encoder motor and I fixed it by reprogramming. See lots of encoder motors. So now we need to know whether it's got, well, these are all the same. I'm going to do some reading. So I thought it'd be prudent to do a visual inspection. And although I see this sensor cracking in the housing, that's not the problem. I don't see anything visually wrong with the wiring here. And the encoder motor looks okay, intact. The problem is caused by a problem in the motor or the wiring between here and the module. And I was doing some research on the troubleshooting. And basically, if you can check continuity of that motor right from the module and check for shorts between wires and shorts to ground, I'm trying to figure out if there's an easier way to do that. Obviously, if you had a new encoder motor and plugged it in, that would probably solve that. I'm going to take that connector off and have a visual look at it. So I got the ohmmeter connected across the two terminals A and D in the motor, and it shows 0.99 ohms. So the actuator is not open. So we're going to start over again, reconnect the plug, make sure the codes all go to history except for the 306, and check it from the front, from the actuator TCCM. There are a couple connectors in line that could be a problem. There's one under the dash and one under the hood someplace, probably by the fuse panel. So I got it reconnected. I'm going to clear the codes. It says key on engine off, but I'm sure I can do it running. Let's see what it says. Display. So the 306 is the only current code. Now, according to the schematic, there's connector 115 in line, and then it goes to the instrument panel junction box, goes through the junction box and back out to the transfer case control module, which I believe is under the driver's side of the dash. I wonder if we should look at this connector 115. Considering it's under the hood. All 100 series number connectors, splices, and grounds are typically located under the hood. So I'm going to find that connector. So there's a fairly large connector, 48 possible pins. I think it's right beside the fuse box. Let's have a look. So I think this is the connector here because it says it's gray. And that looks like a 48 pin connector. You see the wiring harness coming from underneath the fuse panel and then running down into the engine harness. So we're going to identify the pins in this connector that go to that go to that actuator and test resistance right from here. So that appears to be the connector, and the pins are numbered on the bottom here, 38 on the left side and 48 on the right side. I've got the ohmmeter connected across the two pins going to the harness side, going down to the back of the vehicle, and it reads 1.01 ohms. So it's not open, but it could be shorted to another circuit. So I'm going to check for continuity to ground and continuity to power. So I got the ohmmeter connected between pin 48 and the cylinder head block, and I read 13,600 ohms. So I'm going to unplug that encoder motor now from underneath, and it should go open if the encoder motor is shorted. Why did it just jump up to 31,000? Isn't that weird? The wiring could be compromised someplace, but we're going to unplug it at the encoder motor and see what happens. So with the motor unplugged, it's greater than 40,000 ohms. Let's change the range to 4 million. Okay, so Why didn't I think of checking for continuity to the case when I had the ohm meter across the motor terminals below reading 0.99? Would have condemned it then instead of having to do that. But hey, that's okay. We learned where this connector is and we learned the 2 pins that control it. So we're going to get a new encoder motor for this thing. Hopefully that's going to fix it. So 4 T40 headed bolts. Clean the rust out of them first. And the motor just pries off. It doesn't need to be timed in any way as far as I can tell. There is a relearn procedure after the fact, but we're going to clean the corrosion off the surface there. I got a new motor on its way. A little tiny bit of fluid came out, maybe a half a teaspoon. So there's a new motor installed, little dielectric grease on the rubber seal and around the silicone seal on the connector. 13 foot-pounds on these mounting bolts, tighten them in a crisscross pattern. So now we're going to let it down and check it again from the top the same way we did, just to compare. So the same as before with the connector of the ohm meter to pin 48 and the cylinder head. It's over 4 million ohms. Now we're going to check continuity through it. So on the 4 million ohms range, it shows 0 ohms. So I got to change the range here down to 40 ohms. It should be quite low, 0.95. So we were measuring good continuity through the motor, but the motor was shorted through that corrosion internally, or through corrosion internally, I think. Let's put this connector back together again and clear the codes out of it. As I mentioned, the mounting screws are 13 foot-pounds. So we're back in the diagnostic suite. Display codes. Let's see what we've got. Got a bunch of codes from that connector being unplugged. History, 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 history. Let's clear the codes. Yes. Display codes one more time. That's good. Now let's see what's involved in doing that relearn functional test. Output controls. I'll look around here. So when you change that motor, it says you're supposed to do a transfer case high-low clutch retest. Motor learn procedure, refer to transfer case low clutch replacement reset for NQH, and I'm sure that's what this is. Key on, select module setup, scan tool, actuator learn procedure. When the range actuator learn procedure, you should hear the motor engage, indicating a successful learn procedure. Well, I don't see that in the snap-on scanner. Functional test, output controls, range indicator for, these are all indicator lights. Oh, range actuator learn. Read the stupid screens. Wait 30 seconds, turn it back on. Okay, I'm gonna go turn the key off. Wait 30 seconds. So I'm turning the key back on. Transmission has to be in neutral. Transmission in neutral, parking brake, and block drive wheels. Collecting data. Doesn't say to do it running. Complete. Learn complete. Exit. So that's it. We'll go make sure it works. So we'll put it into auto. Shift in progress. And 4 high. Shift in progress. Back to auto. And back to too high. So it appears to work just fine. So we're going to call this one fixed. Maybe we'll have a look inside that old motor. So I decided to dissect this motor because there's no core on it. I'm getting one from Dorman because it has a lifetime warranty and it's $150 cheaper than the OE one, which has a 1-year warranty. And I can see why it's failed. This circuit board and brush holder is sealed in here with this silicone rubber seal, but obviously the salt has gotten past it, you can see, and it's compromised the terminals down there. The motor itself looks good. The armature looks good. I don't think you could get it apart very easily because it's a permanent magnet motor, so when you pull the armature out, it comes out and pulls the brushes out of the holders. But just to follow up, I always like to see why it failed. As usual, salt's got into it.